HGC, beGenius, Fnatic currently clashing here in a best-of-5 series. Fnatic is up 1-0 as expected, and we're getting ready for game number 2.
Fnatic is doing well, but beGenius definitely had a couple of moments there, and of course all the French fans are currently cheering for their team to take one of the maps of the favorite team. But still, beGenius had a couple of good moments in that series, and especially in the last team fight, it could have gone the other way.
I mean, let's talk about communication, because it's a thing that we're going to talk about with beGenius a lot. It's so difficult to get everyone on the same page. I mean, just think about your Hero League experiences. That's pretty much a dramatic push.
Don't do that.
To think about it a little bit. If you have things that just don't work out, don't lay over something you might lose a game, that gets amplified so heavily in professional play just because teams are so ready and so willing to work with each other that 2 seconds, 1 second can just be enough to be off and lose you a game.
Exactly, and when we're talking about the communication and maybe a misplay of Gul'dan stepping a little bit too far forward, you also have to recognize that at this moment it's the opponent's team who has to use that small time frame they have to capitalize on that. So if you make a misstep like this in any other setup, if you are playing just a quick match or Hero League, there's a good chance you're actually not getting punished for this immediately, that you can get away. But once that Fnatic sees that one hero just step out of the comfort zone for one moment, out of that pocket where he's safe, they immediately say, okay, we have this, their communication is on point, and they just go in, drop the target, and win the team fight, and therefore the video game.
The benefits of playing so long together really working out here for Fnatic. Let's find out where we're going for game number 2. The battleground will be Towers of Doom. The choice has been given to beGenius as they lost the last match. They will give the first pick over to Fnatic.
Yeah, so Towers of Doom is going to be the next map. We actually see the map a little bit more often these days in Europe as well. It's kind of cool also how the map mechanic works here. Comebacks in the late game are definitely possible. You can give up a few of the altars at the beginning if you have a late game comp. So that's one of the advantages when you play the map. Also, of course, Globals again getting a lot of value here. So Fnatic probably going to head into a very different draft from what we've seen on the first map.
So let's move into it. Heroes that can be popping up here, Falstad, Dahaka, Zeratul even can be used a lot here for a lot of the rotations for 1, clearing out waves, and then 2, setting up for Void Prison combos. There's going to be a Tassadar ban right away here from Fnatic. beGenius last time did ban out Lucio, and I still think he's a pretty favorable ban on this battleground.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we are seeing any kind of like global ban, because Fnatic can only pick one of them up, then beGenius has a chance to jump into the second. As I said in the first draft already, Arthas is a high priority as well, so you are right, Lucio could be a potential ban here, but Arthas is also another hero that we've seen banned out a lot. He's just one of those cornerstones in the European meta at this point. And beGenius is currently making, I think, exactly that decision. They decide to ban a global, and I have to admit that I think that's a bit of a misstep on their part.
Well, this does force Fnatic to think, okay, do we want to grab the Falstad? Which I feel like, yes, this is a mistake because they definitely want to grab those type of heroes if given the opportunity. However, if Fnatic does do any research against beGenius, they don't run much Falstad. There is a possibility here that they grab a support here and give it up.
They could, of course, go into something completely different. Let's talk a bit about their options. There's still... Oh, okay, I didn't see the Abathur coming. Not as a first pick. This is one of the moments... Okay, there's a couple of things to say about the Abathur. We can come back to that in a second, because there's a reasoning behind that. I was more expecting them to maybe pick up that Lucy that we talked about, prioritize eventually, maybe even the Malfurion high. We could have seen an Arthas. So the question was always, with the ban on Dahaka, do you really go into Falstad, yes or no? I feel the pick on Abathur is simply explained by beGenius running that hero a lot. Like, a lot of people look at this and they're like, oh my god, they're not taking this serious, they're just like throwing the draft. That's definitely not the case, because beGenius is known to play a ton of Abathur combos. They love to do it on Cursed Hollow, they play it also on this map, they like to play it with the Tracer, with the Greymane, they played it in the past with the Jaina, and Fnatic knows that, they realize that, so they just say, we take the Abathur away, we don't ban him out here, we ban the Tassadar instead. We ourselves can do a whole lot of bunch of things with Abathur, but we know it's so important to beGenius that us taking it away is giving us extra value.
We'll see if they can handle that. One of the things that you want to deal with if you do ever grab it out there is you want wave clear right away. You got to be able to help it clear that pressure coming your way. So they grab Arthas, and they also take Greymane. Now, one of the targets that gets hatted often when you have Abathur is Greymane. And with Fnatic running so much Greymane in the last couple weeks, you might as well pick it up now. That suddenly puts it on Fnatic to have some maybe different combinations come in. One in particular that stands out, maybe we get a Tracer.
Yeah, we could see a Tracer, we could see an Illidan, we could see something along those lines. That's definitely a good point here. And I want to just highlight that this is, for example, not a first pick that you should ever see in Hero League. This is not really what you want to go for as a first pick. This is really explained by these teams studying each other, extremely well, scrimming against each other a lot to prepare for HGC matches, so they know very well what the opponent favors, and that's a targeted pick that we have at this point. But as you said, Arthas and Greyman are already off the board. That's a very strong start for beGenius now as well, and Fnatic has to draft around that a bit, so we could expect one of those supports. We've been talking Lucio a little bit. He's still lacking the cleanse. We could see a Malfurion, but they need still a target for their Abathur. And one of the first targets for the head at least is the Varian here, but Lucio, of course, a bit more important part. So far, we don't have a copy target yet.
I do like the Lucio being picked up over Malfurion just because you get the ability to actually have escape. He's able to get his team in and out of a fight quickly enough so Abathur can do Abathur things. If you have a Malfurion, you do risk overextending, so naturally you have to play slightly safer with your 4-man rotation. But Lucio allows you to go full ham mode, which allows for Abathur to body soak, to push different lanes. It just opens up the map so much more when you got the Lucio.
And it's also kind of likely that we are going to see them. I mean, if they don't pick the Lucio, they have to ban one of the 2 healers. So at this point, they could either ban Malfurion or they could go and just simply ban another damage dealer here. There's still a couple of things that beGenius is lacking. But personally, I'm a bit more curious to see what beGenius is trying to get rid of. If they are afraid of a potential Tracer pick here, we said that especially Shrimpy, of course, loves to play the hero. Or if they're just saying, okay, they're not going to go into a Tracer, we need to ban something else out. There's still the Global on the map that could theoretically be picked. But yeah, they recognize that Tracer could be a threat, so they take out.
Yeah, so the options now when you ban out Tracer is Illidan's picked up, Vala can be pretty good with an Abathur hat, even Zul'jin to a degree if you really wanted to go down that route far enough. But you get rid of the Tracer because Illidan you can handle. You have Arthas and Greyman on your side. You already have a foundation for dealing with that hero.
And let's not forget that beGenius is one of the teams that actually always does that Tracer Abathur stuff. So they are like, yeah,
they know the potential.
Exactly. We don't want to be beaten by our own draft. That's not going to happen here. So they take Tracer out first, and now Fnatic, let's see how they react. They could, okay, they ban out the Anubarak. That already indicates that we might very well see them go into a mage. There's also, of course, Anubarak just himself being really strong as a dive with Arthas moving in behind him. Another option would have been banning out a support.
And I would like to argue that Anubarak is a good ban too, also because of the cocoon factor. It gives you that engage against an Abathur composition. Typically, if you're facing off against an Abathur composition, you want to get a fight ASAP. You don't want to dance around, because Abathur gets to buy his time. So if you can force a fight by dropping cocoon and then diving in, you can be very powerful in the fight. So a Anubarak ban makes a lot of sense here.
It's one of those things that's also oftentimes used against Lucio in particular.
Yeah, you just drop the cocoon on them, and then they have no escape, they have no engage, the sound barrier never comes out, and by then you kill somebody off, and he already has a second delay to drop the sound barrier. It's just a hard life for the Lucio. Malfurion being picked up here, so we now have our support, and here is Li Ming.
Li Ming and Malfurion. So Malfurion was expected after we've seen Lucio already used. So now Arthas with a Howling Blast, Malfurion with a stun behind that, and then Greyman and Li Ming are going to try and capitalize on that. So you lock a target down, and you just try to blow it to pieces with Li Ming getting a combo off. Greyman has both options, Cursed Bullet if they want to put all of the eggs in one basket, or they can simply go for the throat here. But Li Ming can be that finisher that you oftentimes need if you go into the Cursed Bullet.
So we're missing damage here from Fnatic. Particularly, you usually want to get an auto attacker. You can run mage compositions with an Abathur. It just makes it a little bit more split push oriented. We'll see what options are floating around. And as mentioned, the Vala is probably one of the safer pickups to grab here. You're able to throw out the Lucio. You have the Variant Engage. You have decent damage if you do want to go Hungering Arrow or multi-shot build to follow up on it. I'm more worried about the second pickup. There's a Zul'jin that we did mention earlier. Typically, you go for Vala over this, but Fnatic wanted to pick up this Zul'jin here and really just break down those lines.
There's a couple of things that you can say in favor of Zul'jin. First of all, if you are... I like that. So, let's talk about the Zul'jin first.
Sure.
So, the first point is, if you are up against the Li Ming and the Greyman, if your opponent plays it well and coordinates the attack, you can blow a Vala up within seconds.
True.
And Lucio doesn't have a panic button. So, Zul'jin does have that. So he can actually survive that and then still stay in the fight. Also, with the auto attack style that we see out of Zul'jin, Abathur with his symbiote build can really benefit Zul'jin just because you get that extra damage in. And if you have a Medivh, then you have even extra protection for Zul'jin to get him out of a fight after he used Tastingo. So I actually think the Zul'jin pick for what they're up against makes sense.
And just to add one more on top of that, Zul'jin is probably one of the best tank busters in the game besides Tychus. He can shred through an Arthas if need be. This now puts beGenius in a spot where they have to grab a second tank, which they should be getting. We've been seeing a lot of double supports, but with Malfurion floating around, we should be good to go in that regard. So Zul'jin does have the possibilities. This composition does put a lot on the Zul, though. He's got to be very effective in his movement and auto attacks.
Yeah, and I would like to see what the...
Oh, wow, okay.
All right. Yeah, that puts an interesting twist on it. First of all, Abathur has now to be a little bit more careful when he's on lane, just simply because the Vikings are going to try and sniff him out and put him under a bit of pressure, so he won't be able to body soak as much as he would love to do. But yeah, Vikings, definitely an interesting approach here. Just like trying... This was something that was played for a long, long time in especially... I don't think that NA was ever really big on the Vikings, but for Europe, this was a massive, massive pick for a long time, not only on this map, but also in Cursed Hollow. I mean, we just saw it last week played by Team Liquid. But the Vikings here can be great. One of the things that Vikings struggle with a bit is you can get pressured in the early game quite heavily. So that's something that they might try and exploit here. Fnatic, that is.
And they're also a good failsafe for when out there does turn online in the late game. You can at least leave Baylog in those lanes and keep rotating them and helping out with the soak. But yes, beGenius, now with the Vikings against an Abathur, we've got a game on our hands. There'll be a lot of certain rotations happening. The 3 altar phase in particular, the first one and the 5th one, will be an interesting way on how our teams do handle them. In terms of straight up fight potential, we do have Dive from beGenius being available. If an Arthas does get off a route, we can have the Greymane and Li Ming go in, Malfurion route, they can take people out. As Fnatic on the right side, they have their hard engage with Varian. It all comes down to who gets the initial engage and who gets the first kill, because both team comps can snowball heavily.
I just want to see a slap battle between Abathur and Eric. It's like all I want to see.
Eric wins all battles. He's too fast for anybody.
Eric wins the battle, but Abathur can still slap him away from those altars. That could still work.
That is the truth. He could make a clutch play. Maybe we'll see it today. If anyone has to make a clutch play, it is beGenius. Let's go ahead and go into game number 2. Towers of Doom. Fnatic and beGenius facing off. Fnatic currently leads.
Fnatic, as you just pointed out, is indeed in the lead. They won on Infernal Shrines, and now we're heading into Towers of Doom, our second map, where to the left side we have our French team with Unstable on Malfurion. Tank for the win is playing Greymane. Arcane on the Vikings. Danatan is rocking the asses up at the front, and Kieva is on Li Ming.
And to the right, whipping out the Abathur in the red. Smexy will be showing off the Lucio. Breeze will be on Varian, moving in for the taunts, bringing in those engages. Quacknix will be on Zul'jin. Watch for him to have a heck of a game. Schwimpy, once again, just playing all the heroes in the roster available, will be on Medivh, and Wubby will play Abathur.
Every single time I see the roster of Fnatic, I just wait for these guys to just create a music video and start a boy band. Like,
I'd watch it, 100%.
I watch it as well. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to listen to it, but I'll watch it.
As long as it's a song about Hero League and soaking experience, that's my one thing I need people to talk about. Soaking experience. It's so important.
I saw your tweet. I share your pain there.
All right, well, let's see what Fnatic does here. As we have beGenius setting up in the bottom, the Vikings have already split out. It's all about containing those Vikings. Ooh, big orb coming in. Now, something to know is I didn't get to mention it in the draft. Oh, hang on. We have a fight from Tank for the win as he moves in. A portal will help out. This is Kirvo's best hero, Li Ming.
Yeah. I want to come back to the point that you said about soaking. It's actually one of the things that people watching this should take away from how the pros play. If you watch the minimap carefully during what happens, you will always see that whenever a wave of minions moves into a tower, that one of the heroes is going to move into position to soak it. So up to level 10, it's one of the most important things in the game that you have always a hero on lane that can soak the waves. As long as those waves don't clash into your towers, it's fine, but losing 1 or 2 waves in the early game really translate into a big disadvantage. So you always see in this case that an Abathur, for example, is either going to body soak a wave and then tunnel to the next lane, or he's going to use a symbiote to soak experience with that, which is actually something that a lot of Abathur players still are not aware of, that you can soak with your symbiote as well as with your body. So both of them are really important and key aspects to playing that hero.
Just saw a kill there in the bottom lane, and to follow up with that, yes, there are 3 ways to soak with an Abathur. Your body with a symbiote, or if your Locust gets the last hit on a minion. Those are the 3 ways to get experience with Abathur, so they'll consistently be trying to do that.
Yeah, and of course Toxic Nest kills. Any kind of damage that you dish out, no matter what ability you use, will always grant you the experience, even if it's cross-map. It's one of the moments how, for example, an Asmodan can soak experience in several lanes. But the chase is on, and this is of course now one of those games where especially Abathur needs to be careful about what the Vikings are doing. We see the altars on the map now, but we also have the Vikings just like trying to soak west, Fnatic is going to attempt to just sniff them out. And especially Shrimpy on his Medivh with the vision that he provides is going to help with that.
Big engage there from Breeze there. That portal coming out, the jump on top of Careful and prevent it from happening. I do like how Fnatic set up that entire infrastructure to allow Abathur to move in and grab the ult in the top right. They had 4 people in the middle. They split out completely, and they got a Viking pickoff. And now, with their great play, they're able to be aggressive here on the altar while Abathur soaks different lanes.
And just look how this is working right now. The Vikings are soaking lanes, and beGenius is delaying this up here as much as they can. They're even winning the fight. Breeze is barely getting out there with a portal as we have the French team pushing in, going for that particular shrine.
He hits Kirva now. Could maybe go for Reset City on Breeze in the top left. Doesn't see him though. Eric King calling it out, but slightly too late. But Zul'jin falls.
Eric being a boss here. But look at that experience lead. There's this misconception that people have when they are playing with or against Vikings that you necessarily in the early game need to get a lead with the Vikings. That's actually not true.
He gets caught here by Danton. Can he get out in time? No.
Barely not.
The root comes out as well as Olaf. Continue your point, Caldor.
Yes, so Vikings are incredibly strong, especially in the mid and late game, because then you are usually moving into the team fights phase where you are always grouping up as 5 or trying. And then the Vikings, of course, splitting off, can just get the extra soak and they can push lanes in, they can threaten keeps, and then with play again, join team fights once they happen. But if you are able to just delay objectives in the early game while the Vikings are soaking, you are already getting ahead. And this is exactly what beGenius is currently doing here. So they understand that they don't need to full engage into these skirmishes that we see here, because they are only on the map as 4. They know as long as they delay objectives, as long as they delay fights and just poke a bit without actually losing members, they're completely fine and they can walk away from them. So this is the one thing that a lot of people don't really grasp when they're playing with Vikings, that they don't need to win every battle. You just have to delay to get value out of the specialist.
I think one way to put it down so people understand in a small amount of words is introduce chaos for the Vikings. Take your 4 members, get on the opposing side of the map, grab mercenary camps, look like you want to fight consistently, because that gives the Vikings a chance to actually gain the advantage. And we see it here, 8-6.
Yeah, and don't die.
Don't die. Stay positive, don't die. Coach William, here's the Dorm 2017.
Coach William, yeah, exactly. In case you guys don't get the pun, it was actually beautiful. We had a couple of interviews with family members of Dorm players at the Heroes of the Dorm finals, and I think it was his brother, like the younger brother or cousin, was trying to give him advice on how to win the finals, and he said, like, stay positive and don't die.
Wagner's getting caught out here. beGenius consistently introducing that chaos, and Fnatic is starting to really fall apart around it. Tank for the win on the back left. Breeze hoping to get out of here. A Force of Will does hit from Schwimpy, some heals from Smexy, but the call has been made to drop a portal. Does Breeze escape? Yes! Fnatic barely saves him, but beGenius has gotten a few takedowns, and they're almost level 10.
That save was crazy, that he got out of the situation with portal shields, his parry, everything that was so well done. But beGenius, look at this, they're 2 level ahead. Now, I've been talking earlier about how in the early game you can actually lose on this map because you can always start that comeback. And let's not forget that one of the big reasons why beGenius is currently doing so well here is because Fnatic is playing an Abathur. Abathur compositions are historically weaker in the early game. You wait until you have the copy and then you can really engage into team fights. The Vikings, of course, emphasize that weakness even more in the early game. So yes, beGenius is doing really well, but Fnatic's time to shine is going to come later in the game. So beGenius is now going to try to gain as much momentum here in the early game where they are stronger to make sure that Fnatic never gets that comeback opportunity.
Yeah, Fnatic just needs to put themselves in a spot where they don't fall too far behind. In fact, I would argue their entire composition is sort of late game. They have Master's Touch Medivh, they have Zul'jin that doesn't really get a power tool until level 10 where he turns on a little bit. 13 he gets that Q talent he's available. You have Abathur, you have Lucio who doesn't even heal that amazing until level 16. He has that sound barrier at 10. And then you have Varian who many consider isn't even a tank until level 10. The question is, can they get there without falling far behind? And one of the things they just did that allowed them to stay closer in this game is get the 4 here, but they're getting benched.
Yeah, and that's the kill again. Oh, the double kill. Lucio is down, and so is Zul'jin. Great play here by beGenius. They're trying to run with that lead. They're trying to get that momentum for themselves so that Fnatic can never come back. It's a triple kill. 7 kills against 0. Fnatic still waiting for 10. It finally hits. So now they can maybe make some plays.
Yeah, but finally hits, but 3 of them are dead. Nice killer instinct here from beGenius. This is something that we criticize about them a lot. Is the early game, they usually can get some pills, but around the time that we get to mid-game, their kills start to fall heavily. They stop chasing, they stop getting kills. The Vikings have opened up the battleground for them to be aggressive. And right now, their communication, their shot calling has been great.
Yeah, so boss is now taken. We have also the altar picked up by beGenius that puts Fnatic on 18 points on the core, and still a 2-level lead for beGenius. But again, keep in mind, the Vikings exploit the weakness of Abathur in the early game. Now we have level 10. This is the moment when Fnatic finally has the copy available on Abathur so that they can have 5 buddies in team fights. So now they have to start that comeback. The whole idea of beGenius was completely cripple them in the early game, take them down, make them bleed, gain momentum, and then try to win the game from there. Fnatic's objective at this point is to take team fights where they are taking the opponent down, but beGenius has already established elite in talents, and that is very crucial for what they're trying to do in this game.
Breeze scouts out Dantan on the left side here. beGenius slowing down slightly in terms of aggressive plays, but still trying to keep up the mercenary pressure, which is something you should surely do. Breeze goes in for the engage. We'll have the taunt available. Dantan sitting in the front does pop Army of the Dead, and with the call being made, beGenius will be able to put pressure on the bottom, as they did force Arthas to use Army of the Dead.
Also, keep in mind that with this, we had the decision on the side of Fnatic to not go into a copy on Abathur. They could have taken the fight, but they're up against level 13 talents, so they're a little bit reluctant. They're only going to do that if they feel really comfortable going into this battle. So ideally, they would soak until they have even talents, but if they find an opportunity, they're going to use it first. Already, Breeze with an attempted engage into the back line, but decides against it.
Yeah, it's going to poke here on the side. Quite nice working on those auto attacks. And we're going to have the Howling Blast connect with 2 Ultras mine on the top, left and top right. Our team should start to move over. And another point, you mentioned not fighting in that area because of the talent disadvantage. Also, the fight disadvantage has been really bad for them. Calamity being really great in that area, Orb chunking left and right. That fight, the call to back up was solid from Fnatic.
Keep also in mind that the first and the 5th temple phase or altar phase is going to be 3 altars on the map. That's going to be crucial for Fnatic. This is one of the moments where they will have to fight. Right now, they want to go for a trade, and they're able to pull that off with Abathur currently being on the channel. So he's going to try and make that happen. To the left side, it's the Vikings. So this is in a trade in altars. Fnatic is fine with this. Even though they are behind in points on the core, they know that with being a talent down, they cannot really hope for much more to happen. They are still trying to soak that extra half level, and then they will look for battles. But this was actually good for them. Just getting a trade, played safe, played slow, there's no need to rush for them. But beGenius, of course, they know that with a good team fight, and maybe winning the 3rd or the 5th temple phase, they can do really a lot here and maybe even win the match.
Yeah, something that a lot of people can learn from that. When you're behind, a trade is good. You're trading up essentially because you are behind.
Yeah.
Fnatic, beGenius fighting once again. Mercenaries being cleared out in the bottom. They do collide with the fort. 2 more coming, so Fnatic's forced to put all of attention in the bottom lane, while Eric and Olaf soak the top and middle, moving towards that level 16 for the beGenius.
Arcane is soaking all the lanes right now, and one of the crucial talents for him is going to be the level 16, because then he's able to move in with a play again and stun someone. The stun on Olaf is one of the most fantastic talents if you're a Vikings player, just simply because you can start to flank the opponent's backline and do significant damage here. You can easily blow up a Li Ming, for example, if you find yourself ever up against one. A lot of people think that Li Ming is a perfect counter against the Vikings because she can get the resets, and that is true if you're up against a bad Vikings player. But a good Vikings player with his jump on 13 and tools to dodge is going to put the pressure on Li Ming, so it oftentimes turns into the exact opposite.
Oh, big engage going in. Go for the rope, popped out. Tazzingo has been used. He is low on health. Sound barrier to be helpful for Zul'jin. Can he get away from the fight? Dantan goes for the chase, but Quacknex has eventually been bullied away from the area. Leyline Seal even being used so Schwimpy can make sure nobody else on his team dies.
Fnatic is really in trouble now, because once again we have beGenius on level 16 versus 13. That's not only a 3-level lead. The level difference doesn't even matter too much here. It's that extra talent that they have. And Fnatic missed that small opportunity where they were on 13 and 13. Now they have to fight. We have 3 altars on the map. Fnatic has to do something. They could actually lose. They could lose here pretty soon. It's 12 points that are up for grabs. Fnatic grabs the first altar on the other hand. Boss isn't up here. So once again, we're having just Eric trying to soak over there. First shots are fired. This is the next wave coming in pretty soon. beGenius is doing exceptionally well, and Fnatic is so far behind that they need a perfect team fight to make this happen.
Big engage, though. We're going straight for Kirwall, and Kirwall will be taken out. Tank for the win as the next target. Quacknix working in those auto attacks. Big Twilight Dream comes out to stop the push, but Fnatic showing some life.
There's nothing funnier than seeing a charge on Varian when the target is trying to move away, and all of a sudden it becomes a half-screen charge.
He goes full Superman.
Yeah, he goes full Superman. He's just like flying in there. He's like, I got this, boys. And he actually confirms the kill here. So we have now leaning down. That gives Fnatic some momentum, but they're still falling farther and farther behind here. They're 6 points only. Look at that aggression. The taunt being used. Malfurion is down. That's what Fnatic has to do. But to be quite honest with you, I'm not too sure if it's not already too late. 6 points on the core against Vikings. If they sneak in an altar at any point, that could be lights out.
They need to get forts low, and they need to get 16. That'll help them out. They're also going to move in for the boss. One of the things about Fnatic, we kept talking about communication and teams being together. One of the things that this team does so well is they have game sense. They got a big pick in the bottom left, knowing their opponents were going to rotate in and defend the mercenary camps, and that opened up this boss here. The small things like that give them the opportunity to make plays to start a comeback. It is going to be hard, but with them hitting 16, this does give them the chance to start doing the comeback that they want to perform.
One of the reasons why they needed to go for boss there too is they can't leave it on the map. Because if they get out-rotated and the boss is taken by the opponent, that's another 4 shots. You can't really... That can't happen to you. They saved the bell tower down to the bot lane, but it's so low that beGenius should be able to pick it up whenever they want to. They can just simply sneak a Viking in there and take it off. But it's 16 versus 16 now, so Fnatic can now take fights. This game is starting to get a bit closer than it seems, because Fnatic can now take these team fights. They have to win them, of course, to come back into this, and beGenius is going to attempt to deny that to them pretty fast.
Yeah, this is definitely the turning point for beGenius. If they lose this fight, it's where you start to panic heavily. So beGenius posturing forward. We do have Balog dead, but Eric's rotating down to bring in that play again if need be. We're going to have double the Zul'jin, double the action on the map here. Big portals coming out as well. Breeze turns around, but Zul'jin is burned.
Yeah, he's really burned. Didn't even use his old tank, just goes in and drops him immediately. So that is a massive problem for Fnatic now. And we're still fighting over that bell tower to the bottom, and don't forget about it. We are currently in a situation where Fnatic is down to 6 points on the core. They cannot really lose this here. They have to fight for it. That's what they're trying to do. Tank is slowed by that bell tower. They're going in once again. Unstable is in trouble on his Malfurion. Ice block being used. Unstable. About to fall. Goes down. No healer for beGenius.
He does fall, and Breeze on the back left with the Abathur hat, mind you. So he has extra damage. He's applying it to Kirwall. There is no Zul'jin on the battleground right now. It is just Breeze in a hat and Schwippy bringing in the damage, and Fnatic is doing it.
Fnatic pulls it off, and Zul'jin is back. Breeze nearly getting the kill on the Li Ming with a taunt and the Abathur hat, but in the end, not enough damage for him. They still have to pick off that bone altar at the bottom, and they're starting to move away from it. I'm actually wondering why right now.
Fnatic's wanting to get some more here. They're getting a little bit on the greedy side here, but you do have 15 seconds to use time here. They're grabbing mercenary camps to get it pushed from the bottom and deep in the front as well. And if they get another pick, remember, they do have Varian, Engage, and Taunt. A pick is very possible for them, so they don't mind waiting it out.
I actually think at this point they're really just trying to delay the next phase, because they're saying, hey, if we take it now, the next phase is going to hit when our opponent has 20, and we don't have it. So if beGenius engages into a fight right now, I would have immediately engaged. Fnatic would have been fine with it. Now they took 2 additional camps. They delayed this a little bit, so they bought some time. They still will have to face beGenius on 20, I suppose. But yeah, the delay here didn't really hurt them too much. They weren't able to pick another bell tower, but they took 2 of the camps.
I do want to call out, they also snuck Zul'jin top with Abathur hat to grab the mercenary camp. And so they put 2 mercenary camps on the field at once, which forced beGenius to defend 1. They defended the bottom one, which allowed for Zul'jin to finish the top. So now Fnatic has kind of opened up the map. They have the bell tower on the top left, and now beGenius is forced to defend the bottom left, as Fnatic just takes the opportunity to soak everything.
It's a really nice back and forth that we have here. The early game going to beGenius because of the weakness of Abathur being exploited by the Viking pick. Now we have beGenius hitting level 20 very soon, and this is the time window that they're going to try and use. They know that with Fnatic being on only 6 points on the core, if they grab a boss and one altar, if they can get a couple of bell towers before they grab an objective, they will win this. But they need to utilize that level 20, that Storm talent that they now pick up. So they are going to try and look for a good engage here, whereas Fnatic is just attempting to put pressure on every single lane, maybe grab an additional bell tower. And they are actually doing well here in the mid lane, and it also means that beGenius can't focus on recapturing the bell tower at the top.
Big engage here. Danatan's and Pop Army the Dead, and the entire crew from Fnatic will pop amp it up. Smexy will get out, and Danatan's Army the Dead has been used. Little baits like that can go a long way as you move towards level 20.
Yeah, Leyline Steel, on the other hand, of course, also committed to as a cooldown. But now look at the experience that we have. As I said before, with Fnatic delaying the altar capture a bit, they have a very realistic chance to grab their own level 20 when the next phase hits, so they can face that on level 20 talents, and that's important to them. So they are going to try and make that happen with Abathur right now. They need to take a few of those waves down, grab level 20 before they fight, or at least delay a potential capture by beGenius.
Alto's activated in the next 15 seconds. Breeze goes in for the engage. He is on take for the win. Portal back if he ever has to escape. Danatan being poked down. 20 about to hit, as you've been mentioning this entire time. Now, if it comes worse to worse, Fnatic can give away one of these altars, but they are not looking to do so. Breeze engages, and Danatan, the tank for beGenius, has fallen.
The tank has fallen, and I'm going to talk about a big problem for beGenius in a moment, but let's focus on this first, okay? They get the 2 bell towers, so they have the first one. The second one, they can take it. They have level 20. The biggest issue was actually Li Ming. I'm not sure if you saw, but she got completely isolated from the rest of the team, moved to the bottom of the map where the altar is, and had to portal back to the base because she was completely trapped between, like, the entire team of Fnatic was between her and beGenius. So she needed to portal back, that's why she was missing in the fight and could never really commit to anything. So Fnatic was essentially at that moment where they got the pick-off, fighting a 5 versus 4.
beGenius and the threat of them never being together as a team, consistently bringing them in spots where they fall behind. With Danatan not being available, 15 more seconds, Fnatic grabs a boss, and now we have a game here. 6 points down to 4. beGenius, can they make this work?
There's so many things to talk about in this game. This is like a perfect example of how you can play on Towers of Doom and what this map is really about. The late game comebacks that we've been mentioning several times now. The early game draft of beGenius, exceptionally well played. Then small mistakes in the late game that open up windows for Fnatic that they use. Mispositioning on the side of Li Ming, having to actually portal back there. Therefore, the kill happening against someone like Arthur. Breeze with his taunts here, doing a solid amount of work. But beGenius is still not done with this. They are now escorting the mercenaries into the core. They're trying to. Breeze is there, is trying to delay it, and they're barely in time to stop them.
Oh man, nicely done there. Howling Blast gonna hit on top of Zul'jin, though. He pops out Zingo, he turns around for the heals there, so nice pickup from Quacknick. Sound Barrier also being used, though, just to save Zul'jin, and this all happens right before the altar activates. 20 seconds. Fnatic has to fight this, but they're down to heroics.
And also, it's 5 versus 3 bell towers, so even if Fnatic picks up that one altar now, it's not gonna end the game. They have used 2 cooldowns, as you already said, Trick, but now we all of a sudden have Arthas in trouble, and Arthas is dead. That's a 5 versus 4 now.
That is the power of Zul'jin if he can get on a tank and be interrupted. Focus down. Big Leyline Seal popped out. Quacknix turns around, starts bringing the auto attacks on the Vikings. There is only a few members here. Kirbois gets locked out. 2 fall. beGenius trying to hold here. Unstable falls as well.
Unstable falls, and Taunt is just such a great tool here. Breeze was able to use it twice, and Fnatic is looking to destroy the bell tower at the bottom because it would finish the game. They keep one hero, or Abathur can actually just like lay the toxic mines around so that there's no Vikings sneaking in. All of them are dead at this point, and even that is not a risk. So they can end the game now. That's the bell tower they needed. They're going to move in and claim victory here. Well done. Whoopi is pulling it off. Breeze with that double taunt, securing 2 kills in that last fight. That worked well. Now putting on a bit of a show. And that's GG as Fnatic picks the 2-0 lead.
No comebacks available. Fnatic says, yes, we can come back to take the late game of Abathur and Zul'jin, and they just bring it. Great shot calling, great pickoffs in moments where it needed to happen. And it almost felt like beGenius was at a point in the late game where it's like, okay, we've already lost this. We're against Fnatic. They're starting to make the comeback, and they just got picked off too many times. Those straggled deaths hurt them and eventually caused a loss.
And This is a perfect example why with an Abathur you need to be willing to also give things up in the early game. Just think a second about how much Fnatic was actually giving up here. They fell 2 levels behind because of how the Vikings exploited the Abathur weakness in the early game. Then they gave up several objectives after that because they were a talent down. And when it was finally 13 versus 13 and they were on 12 points on the core, they said, all right, boys, now we can do something. The copy on the Abathur, so crucial. Don't take Monstrosity.
Unless you're having fun, man. You can have fun in Heroes, but not when you actually want to win and get competitive.
Unless you play quick match.
There you go. No monstrosity until you do quick match. The callouts, the Zul'jin play, again, the tank buster potential. That was an Arthas that got burned down 3 times at the end of the game with Army of the Dead being available. That's how quickly Zul'jin can shred a front line if he's given the opportunity.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Arthas in those scenarios was also taunted. So he couldn't use any of his defensive capabilities there. He was always the taunt and then Zul'jin come in. But you are completely right that Zul'jin as a tank buster is amazing. If you give him a stun setup, a taunt setup, anything that really locks the target down, he can just go ham.
And he'll give them axe. Let's get ready for game number 3. We'll be right back. Fnatic is up 2-0.